President Brad Smith.
Here.
Vice President Jerry Askew.
Excused.
Is he going to be here?
No, he will not. He's on business travel.
Secretary Anthony Matthews here. Brandon, General Manager.
He's on his way.
Michael Benedetto. Here. Jeffrey Gora. Here. Bonnie Burst.
Here.
Susan Crawford Velasco. Arthur Dowd. Jet Dunlap.
Excused.
Gina Gresham.
Excused.
Varun Karuna. Sally Polster.
Excused.
Darren Lopez.
Here.
Eric Nanska.
Here.
Jim Summers.
Here.
Renee Trinidad.
Here.
Ross Turnell.
Here.
Cindy Wu. Michael Cole, parliamentarian. Positions not filled. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4.
Okay, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, item 3 is the approval of minutes from the June, July meetings. Mr. Matthews, we have those, I believe.
We do, there's copies of the minutes up at the front. Does everybody on the board get copies of the minutes?
No. Sorry.
Anybody else?
No. Some of you want to. You don't mind.
Leave one for me.
Board members, please read the minutes.
Yeah, there's a couple of items on the front page that need filling out, so David and I will go over those and vote on the board members. So, is there any questions on the minutes? Yeah, approve the minutes of the Thursday, July 3rd. Oh, sorry.
I would like mine to show up as excused. I sent an email to figure out the time.
Okay, good, I will put that up. Let me just do the rest and while we're doing that. Renee, were you excused the last meeting?
Yes, I called Brad.
Okay, that's fine. Chris was not here, I'm gonna say she was excused. Darren, were you excused?
Working, sorry.
Okay, anything else on the minutes?
Just a misspelling on, that normal misspelling on my name where the I is an A. Should be an I instead of A-N, I-N.
Anything else on the minutes?
Be it now.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any? Any abstentions? There is abstains. Okay, thank you.
I'm here.
Oh, Kristen Velasco has arrived. Excellent. Even better. Okay,
Were these minutes just July, or were they both June and July?
these are July. Do you have June?
I do not have June.
Okay.
So then we only approved July then?
So we only approved July and we'll table June until August.
Are we, I'm just curious, did we get May done too?
Or,
May's already done.
It's been done? Okay.
we'll table June until September. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a large number of people here tonight, I believe for at least one issue for public comment. Ms. Hagan, is everyone who's here tonight, can you ask the people who are here tonight, from your perspective, to please stand, just so I'm clear that I'm mentioning you.
And my mom's outside, she's putting people.
Okay, that's great, all right. We do have, thank you so much for coming, we appreciate that very much. All right, we do have a long agenda. What I would like to ask, with your agreement, is if Ms. Hagan can make your position known. And we certainly can allow each of you to speak for 2 minutes. I'm not sure that you all wish to speak for 2 minutes. Given the course of the evening, we would certainly appreciate if not everyone spoke for 2 minutes. Having said that,
I think Mr. Sheets will go first, because he's the property owner right next to who will be the most impacted by our self-employed.
just 1 second. Is there anyone else here who's here for public comment, other than the folks who are here with Ms. Hagan's group? Other than Mr. Kuzma? No? Okay, great. All right, please go ahead.
Mr. Sheets?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Fred Shees. I'm a property owner at 6230 Hiawatha Street in Granada Hills. My property is directly adjacent to the lot of the Baptist Church on Woodley Avenue. And I bought my home while it was under construction 50 years ago. We visited there all the time. Our property is directly adjacent. We have a common block wall, and there is already a transmission tower, communication tower down there, which has been set up years ago. Right now, I notice they're working, taking all the leaves and branches off it. I don't know what's going to happen. They claim they cannot process all the communication they need to with other stations. But now that it's leaflet, so to speak, apparently it still works. So my main concern is the devaluation of my property. It's not the tower itself. If it would stand somewhere else on their property, it'd be one thing. But if it's directly next to our home and the home of the people right south of us, south of our property, common line, is a large condominium complex. And I talked to 4 individuals that made themselves available for communication. They were not even aware that there was an application made to set up a second tower. The drawing that we received shows a 500-foot radius of communication disbursement, which did not happen. And all of a sudden, we found out that the project had already been approved by a government official. And we resent that because we did not have a voice, and we'd like to be heard. And, it seemed that some of those decision steps were totally ignored. We attended a meeting late last month with one of the councilmen, and we were told we had a further hearing. He did not appear. He did not run the mass. layout of the project is such that the drawer, the man who drew that, or the lady, excuse me, had absolutely no idea what lies beyond the property line of the church, other than Woodley Avenue, which they call Woodley Street. So it's a minor mistake. But they had no idea that their buildings, individuals, like me, the condos right south of us, that it's right on the other side of the block wall. And I think that's the only comment I need to make, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hagan, if you can speak, and then,
I might have a little bit of a solution for it. It was Synergy, and they did come to us at our last Planning and Land Use Committee. We had a number of questions for them. I was there. I am co-chair of the Planning and Land Use Committee. Jerry is out of town right now. Jim Summers was there. Maria, she was there. And they did have a representative, and we asked them a number of questions about that too. From what I understand, they're going to be putting in a vault under there in that same area, and they're supposed to be taking down that one bad-looking tower where all the stuff is off of it, because they want to have a better-looking tower there. However, if you want to address them specifically, they're supposed to be at our next planning and land use meeting, which is usually the last, if I'm wrong,
Last Wednesday of the month.
last Wednesday of the month. And they're supposed to come back to us because we had some questions that they could not answer. And they said that they would come back with some of those answers as far as how many, how much, how tall, and so forth and so on. And if you have questions, I think that would be the time when you can talk directly with one of the representatives.
hold on, folks, please. We have a process, we need to get through this, we need to do it by the numbers. And I appreciate everybody's very interested in this. I'm certainly interested in this. I was not aware of this until about 11:30 Monday night.
Which is when we received.
So,
Okay.
so just give me a second.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so yes, this is, let the record reflect Mr. Schimmelheim has arrived. This is something that has been at least gotten partly through to the neighborhood council at the planning and land use. We're aware there's other things going on. We certainly want to be involved and informed, but we do have to do it by the numbers as far as making sure we get a chance. This can't turn into a hearing on this issue right now. Okay, it's not appropriate, it's not what we can do. Having said that, Tanya Ornez, who is here from CD12, is here. She is the person.
Where's Tanya?
Right up there, she's from Council District 12, she's the councilman's liaison to us, and to be honest, you know, there's a significant more amount of clout at CD12 than there is at the South Neighborhood Council. So I strongly suggest you get with Tanya and talk to her this evening, especially given the numbers that you have here tonight to demonstrate the amount of concern in the community.
We've been attempting to. I've spoken with Brian. Okay.
So,
First of all,
please introduce yourself.
I will. My name is Jill Hagan. I am a lifelong Granada Hills resident. I went to Mayall Street Elementary School, Porter Middle School, Kennedy High School. I did my student teaching here at Granada Hills High School, and I've also taught for 5 years at Kennedy High School. I'm an LAUSD teacher. This is my busiest time of the year because I have 200 eighth graders that will be waiting for me on Tuesday. So just to let you know, we are appealing this verdict. It has been approved. Just so you know, it's been approved by the City of Los Angeles Planning Commission. It has been approved. Our appeal is due on August 13th. And the reason that we want to appeal is, A, my understanding is that in April, Synergy is the developer for a second Verizon tower. The first tower is not going down. In fact, they finally, after 7 years today, are improving it, which is interesting.
Exactly.
Right, which is a bit ironic that for 7 years we've been trying to get them to approve it, they just did it today. Number two, we were not informed of the April neighborhood council that there would be anything that would be going on regarding the surrounding property owners. June 4th was, my understanding was when Synergy did their appeal. None of the property owners were notified about that, which we would have shown up then. July 1st, there was a meeting, which was down in Van Nuys at the Planning Commission, and that was held at 10 o'clock during the day, which is difficult for working adults. And we have affidavits from different neighbors within the 500-foot radius. Please raise your hand if you did not get written notice of the July 1st hearing, and you're within the 500-foot radius. So those are our grounds, is that we just received the written approval on Friday. We have to file the appeal by Wednesday. So all of this is happening, and the reason we're speaking here is because this is the soonest date that we have in terms of making our voices heard. So we are very concerned that there's a second tower. At the July 1st Planning Commission, the reason that it was approved was A, because of the approval of the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. That was the verbal, okay, I'm just letting you know that was what the commissioner said. The second reason is that there's already one there. So they said that the council said because there's already one there, it would be less of a detriment and less blight to put a second one there. So you have to understand, it's approved within 25 feet of Mr. Sheese's property line. I don't know if you would like to have a 50-foot tower right literally before the doors. It's going to be there. So we want A, to have our voices heard, and B, for this whole process, and to make sure that there is direct notification as is legally required. So we really need that. I have been trying to speak with the councilman's office. I've spoken with Hannah Lee. Brian O. was at the July 1st. And I'm really glad that you're here. I think it's great. We're trying to get a meeting on site so that they can see what our concerns are. And so we are directly appealing to the councilman to meet with us to discuss this further. Thank you very much.
Just to follow up, it has not been approved. If it had been, it would be before this committee tonight.
It's been approved.
We
It says
just
it right here.
we just heard about it. We just heard about it at our last meeting. And
Sir, right here, I'm giving you a copy of it. This is the approval letter from the planning commission. It's been approved.
it was not approved by this council because it has to come before this committee to be approved, and we have not approved anything.
I'm just letting you know that's what the reasoning was for the approval of this. So as of right now, it's going forward unless our appeal is heard. And so it has been appealed. It has
Well,
been.
get together with Tanya, and just so you know, this committee it has not come before this committee at this time, and we have not approved anything. Neither did the Planning and Land Use Committee. In fact, we tabled it until they came back with us for answers that we had, that he didn't have answers for.
Okay.
So,
Okay. So I'm just letting you know that that's what Fernando Tovar, who was the zoning administrator, stated that the two reasons he was approving it is based on that.
I was not at the meeting where apparently the city person attended, but did he come and present, but we didn't have an action? Did we have a vote?
yeah, but that was a long time ago for another project, not this project. I have it right here.
That's a lie.
Right, this is the gentleman's name.
Yeah,
Here's his card.
he presented at this July 1st meeting.
Right.
But I'm just letting you know, that's what the reasoning of the city is based on, that you guys said it was a good idea. He
Well, we
said,
didn't say it was a good idea. I had quite a few members of this. I and others on the council were not happy with this. But,
can you guys please do affidavits for us so that we can be a part of our appeal?
Okay, let me say a couple of things. One, I was not at that meeting, so I don't recall it. Two, we will get an answer as to whether, they may have presented, but whether the general board actually had a vote, I can't tell you that right at this moment. Okay, we have people who said we did, all right. So I'll have to, for my own convenience, I'll have to find out what that was. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I'm
So-
just saying, the appeal is due on the 13th, so if I can have your affidavits to attach.
But
Yeah.
we will see what we can do. Just one more thing, before your folks, before we move on. Make sure everybody who's here tonight, who is in opposition to the proposal as it currently stands, please give your name and information to our secretary. And we can include that in our minutes
Okay.
and make sure that they all talk with Ms. Ornans.
So we have the.
So, can I interject real quick? The issue is actually working through our planning deputies, which are Hannah Lee and Brian O. So I personally do not have any details on this. The best I can do is collect names. But if you're already working with our planning deputy, so Brian O did apprise me of this, but I don't have any specific details for you, unfortunately.
Right, but he told me today at 4 o'clock to speak to you, so you can let the councilman understand
Yes,
our
so
situation.
what I need is just if everyone can start a list of your names, but I don't have any details unfortunately to provide you. So again, I'll just communicate to the
Ladies and
council.
gentlemen, please stand by. We're trying to check something right now.
Okay, can we have some other speakers, please? John Shees, thank you.
Hi, my name is John Shees. I'm a property owner at 16231 Hiawatha Street, right across the street from my father. I'm father of a 5 and 10-year-old girl, raising my children in the same neighborhood that I was raised in. I moved in with my parents in 1968. Lived as Jill did, went to Mayo Elementary School, Porter Junior High, Kennedy High School. Moved away, lived in North Hills, and when an opportunity came to buy a house in Granada Hills, directly across the street from my parents, I took the opportunity, moved in. My children see their grandparents every day. It's a wonderful neighborhood and community. It's obvious why we're all here, and I believe, with all due respect, part of the problem is the somewhat dismissive nature and the confusion that's going on right now. That's how we all feel, and for you it might be an inconvenience and a little bit of confusion tonight at your meeting, but for us, it's our life, it's our homes, it's our property, it's everything we put into. I look out and I see my neighbors, I know what their houses look like, I know the pride we take in our homes, I know we just remodeled our front yard, we want to put the best appearance possible. And so if we are passionate about this or vocal about it, it's not out of disrespect, it's out of the fact that we weren't informed and we feel like we're losing our voice. We feel like the opportunity to be heard is slipping away. And when you address a group like this and it's conflicting information, the gentleman thinks that it's one thing or it's Verizon will take care of it. We have paperwork that was not delivered to me, that was delivered to me by Ms. Hagan. To the contrary, they are, Synergy is saying the other tower is AT&T. It's not their responsibility, and they can't do anything about the upgrading, about changing the noise level. When asked about the noise rating from the new equipment, they were in the brief it says the noise level is so low that it can't be measured, which is absolutely ridiculous. 4 years ago, we had a swimming pool put in at my house, and all the permits and the building inspection. Part of the process was sending out a building inspector with a handheld decibel meter who checks the noise on your swimming pool pump. So if they can tell you how loud my pool pump is, certainly they should be able to tell you how loud a functioning 50-foot cell tower is going to be. So we have concerns, and that's where I'd like to leave it. We'd like to be heard. Thank you for your time.
So just if I can speak for a moment, again, I was not at that meeting. Our minutes taker passed me a draft, so it's not been approved, so in that sense, they're not official, but it's the best record we have right now. And if I'm reading this correctly,
Is that the June 4th meeting?
June 5th, okay? And if I'm reading this correctly, Dave, help me out here since you wrote this. There was a motion to amend, there was an amendment to the motion passed by roll call vote, 9 in favor, 5 opposed.
And then the full motion, including the amendment.
And there was a full motion with these with you? Just the okay. All right. To boil it down, it looks like we did have a vote, and the vote basically had some conditions attached. So if it was stated as something, a full 100% approval, it sounds like that's incorrect. Again, these are not official minutes, and my apologies. we are working through a couple of issues when it comes to secretary and note-taking and things like that. Okay, one more thing, and I truly understand the issue, the concern that everyone here has. I'm a homeowner. I certainly understand what it's like to deal with City Hall and not be satisfied with the service we receive. I appreciate everyone being here tonight. Just one more time, is there anyone who is not in Mrs. Hagan's group who's here tonight on this particular issue? Okay. One more time, could everybody who supports this petition, please raise your hand so we get a count. Okay, thank you. We have, from my count, we have 14 stakeholders who have appeared in opposition to this project. We've had 3 speak. We don't have any one here to speak in support of this project. We have an issue that has to be resolved in terms of what this board may or may not have decided upon 2 months ago. And you have a representative of Council District 12 here tonight. And just as a personal aside, I will do my best within the next, as quickly as possible, to try and lay this to rest as much as we can. So with that understanding, unless someone really wants to stand up and speak again,
I'll take one, not even a minute.
Okay.
My name is Tony Pinizzotto, and I'm new to the area. I've been here about 2 years with my spouse, Eric Larson. I wholly support everything that's been said so far by Fred and John and Jill. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I want to state for the public record, is that I head up a neighborhood network group on a website called nextdoor.com. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's very popular. It's like a social networking, but for a very local area. Even police are now. Okay. So I was contacted. We did get a letter on July 1st, and because it was inexplicably scheduled for a weekday at 10 a.m., we did not go. But in that letter, it stated that you could contact Ms. Williams, who was one of the people on that letter as a contact. Her name is also on this approval letter. I was contacted by several people on Nextdoor.com that said they tried to email her and stayed in there and it was bounced back. It was not received. About a week after the actual meeting, I contacted her and I said, is it too late to put in an email or a letter to me? She said, no, it's not. Or disapprove the letter. I said, great, I'll send it tonight. Hours later, I got a call saying, oh, it's approved. So she did say the word is approved. Just saying that.
One more thing, please, and maybe Ms. Hagan, if you want to take the time and have people go up to the secretary one at a time. So we get everybody's name, so we can have it on the record that you all are here, your positions, and how you feel about this.
We're sending around a list right now.
Okay, excellent, thank you. All right, again. Yes, and thank you for that as well. Okay, again, we really can't address this as it is, other than hearing public comment. But having heard public comment, I hope it's clear that we have some questions as well. As we can, okay.
Good. So, Tanya, did you get all that for the councilman?
You said you had a list going?
Yeah, it's going around.
Is that for the neighborhood council or for
Both.
gonna have you guys
Both.
also
Both.
have one for me? Okay.
I was at the meeting, and I think one of the conditions that we maybe might have said approved to it was that it was known by all the neighbors of the action that was going to be proposed, and that they were notified, and that was the condition that was told of.
Thank you for that clarification. So, Ms. Hagan, that's how we're going to proceed tonight. Obviously, as things develop, please keep me informed, and however we can be involved, we want to be informed as how things come along.
This would be great. You can help us since we literally have to file the appeal. I mean, my school has started, so I have to go somehow take out school time or something to do this. If you can do a handwritten note with your address about what was really done at the council, that will help our appeal that I literally have to go file tomorrow morning.
That would be a matter for each individual.
Yeah, if they feel like doing that and would like to do that tonight, that would be wonderful.
Okay, All right, so thank you all. Truly appreciate you being here. I wish it was on for a different situation, but as I'm sure you all understand, the city's very large and we deal with what we can get sometimes. Having said that, on public comment,
Just want to clarify, I think there's another sheet that's in the council now, so that sheet you guys are signing is for the auditor's office, or the other one you guys prepared for us?
Okay, well, so everybody wants to put their address up.
Here's some more names I can read.
all right, we have one other public comment speaker card. That's Mr. Kuzman. Different issue, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Although I grew up on Woodley Hill on Belgian Avenue, so I went to male school too. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is William Kuzman. I'm a realtor for 30 years and a Granada Hills homeowner for 26 years. I want to thank the board for the willingness to be elected to a volunteer position to serve the community of Granada Hills. I want to thank all the stakeholders for showing up tonight. This makes me feel very, very happy. This is the largest turnout of stakeholders this council has ever had. And I want to encourage all of you to keep coming back and keeping your concerns voiced here, because that's what this neighborhood council is about. It's a local council for us to deal with local issues, so keep coming back. Thanks for coming tonight. As you all know, it's my opinion that the neighborhood council can do more to reach out to the stakeholders and provide them with up-to-date information about community events and the activities of the neighborhood council. As elected representatives of the public, the board is subject to various laws designed to ensure the public is informed and does have a voice. This year, the Brown Act was revised to require roll call voting so the public is aware how the board members and standing committee members vote on any item. Last year, I complained that the committees were not posting minutes, and I was told that there was no requirement for the standing committees to take and report minutes. To comply with the new Brown Act revision, I request that the Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council bylaws be amended to make committee roll call vote available to the public prior to the board taking action on any motions submitted by a standing committee. A bylaws revision to committee reporting procedures and/or a requirement to provide written minutes posted on the website prior to the general board meeting will prevent the following mistake from happening again. The Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council Bylaws Committee met on 7/17/14. On agenda item 3 was a discussion of grievance panel recommendations. The issue being addressed was the lack of a special specific board seat for residential landlord stakeholders. The residential renters have a special seat on this board, but not the landlord stakeholders. The committee, after 20 minutes of discussion, voted to change the definition of the homeowner-specific seat. This can be viewed in a video that I took of that meeting that is posted on YouTube if you do want to see it. That shows, after 20 minutes, a vote was taken to remove the words "and lives in," so that the property owner's seat would then be open for a landlord to run for also. At the general board meeting on July 3rd, during the committee report, there were 4 motions. After the first motion was voted on, I asked the chairman of that committee about the vote on this homeowner seat, a meeting which I attended and I recorded. In response, he said the committee voted not to bring it forward. Obviously, this must have been a mistake, as the committee vote did take place, and it can be verified on the video. As a result of the bylaws committee and the board having failed to complete the action, and as a result, that grievance I filed last October is now still hanging in the limbs, because an item that should have been brought up last month that would have ended it, that the committee voted on, wasn't brought before this board. And so I hope this situation can be improved in the future.
Thank you for the input, sir. Okay, we have community speakers, and in most cases we have a representative from LAPD and a representative from Council District 12. Tonight we have the good fortune of also having a representative from the school board. But we also have something in terms of informing the community about that, frankly, I think the neighborhood council deserves some credit for. We have a delegation from Cal State Northridge this year to present on their plans for the basically future development on campus. as you may or may not know, our southern border, which is Devonshire Street, runs across the north end of the campus. So things that happen in California Northridge obviously have a tremendous impact on the city of Grand Rapids, both in terms of the assets it brings to the community and also to the issues that development on campus bring. So if, with the forbearance of Tanya and Officer Del Cor and our representative from Board Member Galatson's office, I would like to allow the people from Northridge to speak first. And I'm going to ask your forbearance to give them 10 minutes and then 10 minutes of Q&A if we have that. Okay? So please come forward and introduce yourselves. And if you live around the hills, I strongly encourage you to stay and hear what they have to say, because I think you will be very interested in some of the things that are on the bus. Sure, right up your spot. That's great.
I don't want to stand right in front of you. So my name is Francesca Vega, and I'm the Director of Government and Community Relations for Cal State Northridge. I just wanted to definitely give some credit to Brad, who had reached out to Colin Donahue, who I'm joined by our Vice President of Administration and Finance, and Ken Rosenthal, who's our Associate Vice President of Facilities at the university. And Brad had reached out to us and just wanted to get acquainted with us, and he was already pretty well versed in what's going on with the Multipurpose Events Center and the feasibility study and what we have done around that, which Colin and Ken will get into more details. So thank you, Brad, for reaching out. I look forward to coming to these meetings more regularly, and I just want to quickly, we're going to be focusing this evening on the Multipurpose Events Center, but I'm going to put these up front. This is just the Valley Performing Arts Center schedule. And I just want to say that I really look forward, you are in our backyard, and where I can be of help or where I can share with you some of the many great things that are going on the campus and how the community can be engaged, I look forward to doing it. So with that being said, I'm now going to turn it over to Colin, who will just give you some background on what this all entails. And I just want to share, especially in light of the conversation a little earlier this evening, we definitely were here to just talk with you about what's happening. Nothing's happened. We'll Colin will walk through what has happened so far, but we want to make sure that the community surrounding the university is in the know. And any questions or concerns that you have, I'll definitely be taking notes, and it's helpful to us. So again, just someone mentioned about how having a voice in the community, and we get it and we appreciate it, and that's why we're here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having us. And I'll just start by saying I've been on the campus for about 18 years. Ken's been there a long time as well. And actually, I was in Ken's position for a number of years before we moved into that. So we know we're pretty well connected with our neighborhood councils in the Northridge area, south, east, and west. And so, Brad, we do appreciate you reaching out to us. We also have a long history of communicating with them. So what we like to do is come in early and come in often so people are informed. And I'm actually proud of the fact that we communicate on a basis that's not necessarily a requirement, but a courtesy and a partnership. So we're always willing to do that. And if you want us to come time to time, when we had a lot of development going on campus, we used to do pretty regular updates, primarily back in years back. And I think, Brad, you were actually
Midwest, yes.
Yes, okay. We used to do a little bit more regular because there was more activity going on campus, but we're always glad to do that. So what we wanted to talk to you about today was, as Francesca mentioned, we did what we call the phase 1 study for a multi-purpose event center. And I'll describe that a little bit more because a lot of times people ask, what do you mean multi-purpose event center? And then there's a few things happening. And what we want to talk about tonight is what we did, why we did it, we'll do that briefly, and what we haven't done, so that you know kind of where we're going through the process here. And we want to talk to you about the steps we've had to engage folks so they know what's going on, and obviously this group is included. I'm glad they are. So now we have all 4 sides, so the process is complete. So I'll just go really quickly into what's the multi-purpose event center all about. So there's really a couple of areas that it hits, and the obvious one is we have 19 Division I sports at Cal State Northridge. We have quite a focus on athletics now. It is one of the priorities that our president set for our campus. And we're supporting our athletics more heavily, and that's primarily because it is a tool for engagement for our students, alumni, faculty, staff, and community. It's a big initiative for us. And so we have some drawbacks there, primarily with our court sports. Many of you that probably are aware, we play in what we call the Batadome, which sounds like a grand name if you don't know Cal State Northridge, but it's probably about, I'm not even sure, but it's probably the same size as the gym in this place, about 1,500 seats. So we're by far the smallest. We compete in the Big West Conference. That's an issue for us. One of the reasons we want to study capacity, because I'll just tell you, we are investing in success for our men's basketball program is our flagship. But we also have very successful women's basketball program. Went to the tournament this year. We're also nationally ranked in women's volleyball and often in men's volleyball. We're in the top 10 in the nation. So the other issue is all of the things that accompany a performance venue that we really don't have at Cal State Northridge. The world-class training facilities and the other support facilities, office facilities for our coaches that go along with that. So that is probably on the athletic side as big of a concern for us as the competition venue itself. So that's one. And the other one is, and this is, I can tell you legitimately on campus, and if you talk to our president, this is as big a concern, if not bigger than the athletic side, is the academic side of the house. In that for 50 years, we've coexisted in one building where our academic side, our kinesiology department primarily, our College of Health and Human Development, coexist with athletics, and they struggled to get court time. You know, we share courts, we share practice courts, we use a competition court for credit courses, and so that's always been an issue for us. And so one of the other drivers is there's about 40,000 square feet that I'm talking about that is shared use, and it's just always been a difficult situation for us. So it will be a huge improvement for the academic side to be able to turn that space back over to much needed academic space. And then the other really, if I just talk about individual things, the other big one is our commencements. Many of you probably know we do, 7 commencements normally. Many of them have 12,000 plus people attending. We do them in the quad. We were lucky this year, but normally it's 100 degrees in May, and it's pretty unbearable. And so that's really been an issue for us on campus. And so to have a large venue to be able to do those commencements would be a huge benefit. And then, you know, I could go on and on. There's a lot of student events that we have outdoors, our big show concert. Those things are easier to present and control and so forth. And then finally, I would say a project like this, if we were to do it, and we're going to talk about where we're at, because we're very early in the process, and so there's no foregone conclusion that we're going to go forward with a project like this. This project won't happen unless it is a regional facility, meaning it meets some needs and desires of the greater community here in the San Fernando Valley. So I think that's important. And one of the reasons I say that is it's not economically feasible to build something. Our sports alone at Cal State Northridge would not even come close to being a very small part of what we could do with a facility like that. So we really would have to have a partnership, a community partnership there. So with that, I'll just describe a little bit what we're talking about when we say multi-purpose event center. What we looked at was we did what we call the phase 1 study. It's really the business side study. Is the need there? What are the drivers? Is there demand? What is the economic impact? You know, what is the benefit for the region economically? What are the costs? In generally, what are we talking about? And we actually looked at so we did 2 different sizes. We looked at 6,000 and 10,000 seat facility for the performance venue side of it. And the reason they did that was when you talk about our sports, even though we have small facilities, 6,000 is a pretty good sized venue for most college basketball teams. Until you get to the absolute top conferences, there's many in the Pac-10, and we can't always use the example of USC. They average about 4,000. in the Gaylord Center, which is a, beautiful new facility. And I'll tell you, I think that number is skewed a little bit on average, because when they play UCLA, they fill it, right? So it means they're probably lower on others. So that is not necessarily the driver, and the reality is the size, what it comes down to when you do one of these studies is, and we saw this across all the comparisons that we do, it's the few events in the year that really do drive the size of the facility. So we had to look at a larger facility primarily for things like I mentioned with our commencement and maybe our big show that our students do that bring closer to the 10,000 mark. So that's something that was an interesting finding for us, because we're not different than facilities all around the country. It's probably, what do we say, Kim, maybe less than a third of those events even get up to half capacity. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And then just to tell you a little bit about process. So what we did was, the first thing we did before we commissioned this study is we went and talked to the council office, and we went and talked to the three Northridge neighborhood councils, because we wanted them to understand what we were doing and what we were not doing. And Ken's going to touch a little bit on what we're not doing. But we wanted to do that before we started, so there wasn't a misconception that Northridge is moving forward and they're starting a multi-purpose event center. This is a huge project. There's a long way to go before we can even figure out if we can fund something like this, and that's what we're looking at. So it was back in about a year ago that we did that. We made those contacts, let people know what we're doing. We talked to the business community as well. We went ahead and then worked on our study. We finished that around between August and kind of wrapped it up around March. And as universities do, we talk about things for 2 or 3 months, right? And that's what we've been doing internally, talking about where do we go, what are the next steps. But we're at the point now where we have a plan to engage the community. You were actually the first of the neighborhood councils that we're talking to. We met with Councilman Englander and some of his staff last week, and just talked to him about, we gave him a copy of the report. We brought a couple here tonight. We are going to post it probably within, by end of day Monday, would you say? We're going to post it on our website so people can access it. It's a pretty big report, and we brought you the nice copy, so we'll leave those with you. And I don't think we didn't give you a copy. I don't think we did. Okay. So we're going through that process now to let people know what we found in the study, kind of where we're at, and I'll tell you briefly, in the interest of time, kind of where we stand today is we're making these connections, and then on a parallel, we're really getting more into the funding feasibility of this project. How can a project like this be put together? What are the various ways? Because it's, this project could be just anywhere from about $150 to $175 million all in. That's not an easy thing to do, because there won't be any state money involved, right? So some of the things we're looking at are talking to business leaders, talking to some people in the industry that run some of these venues. What are the options and opportunities for doing something like this? There's a variety of models. Some venues have student involvement, where the students pay a fee, similarly our website, where they don't pay a fee. That potentially could be part of it, but it absolutely isn't even close to funding the facility. There's no way to shoulder that. Okay, yeah, we'll get through it. We're happy to answer any questions. So I'm gonna kind of wrap up and just say that I want Ken to just talk a little bit, because I think it's important for you to know what we're not doing. So what we did do was really the business side study, all the things I mentioned before, to see what would the demand be, what are the issues between different sizes. But Ken, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things that people might need to know about what we're not doing?
So probably the first thing that comes to mind when you think about where we're going to put a facility like this is where is it going to go? And the thing that's most important for everyone to recognize is that, right, as at this point, there's no foregone conclusion about where it's going to go. We haven't studied any locations. Of course, the campus has a number of locations that are all going to have pros and cons. In order to look at that, we're going to have to study those locations. None of that has been done yet. So we have, in terms of, that's always the first question we get is, where's this thing going to go? And the answer to that is, we simply don't know. We haven't studied it yet. Then, in order to do that, we're gonna obviously have to take into account like, our environmental impact. We're gonna need to do a traffic analysis. We haven't done any of that yet. So really to speak to what Colin was talking about, we're not at a stage yet in our study, other than the financial outlook about what this facility will cost, what it can contain, the size of it. Really, one of the next steps that we would have to take on would be looking at the environmental issues, the traffic issues, and of course, the cycling issues.
And just to touch on that, we're also not sure that we're gonna do any of those things. We don't know that, because the reason we did this first phase as a separate piece is, that's where you really start to expend some serious money to do those kinds of studies. You don't wanna do that until you know you're gonna be able to build a facility feasibly. So, again, there's no foregone conclusion, and as Ken said, I'll just say, there's, most people would say, well, clearly it's going on the North Campus. And it's always interesting for us, because as people that have been in the industry and planners, there's actually a lot of cons to North Campus. There's pros to North Campus is a big piece of land, but I mentioned before, we have 19 sports. One of the primary concerns for us is this needs to be a center of activity for the campus. It can't be sitting alone. It's got to be activated, and it has to serve with its support facilities and its training facilities, all the other sports that are in the place.